Hi, my name is Aaliyah Reynolds. I'm the current president of Students Against Sexual Assault nonprofit and the UCSB director of SASA UCSB. Can you introduce yourself and talk a little more about yourself?
So my name is Jeike Meijer. I am a fourth year Global Studies and Feminist Studies double major with a German minor, and I am the former external vice president of local affairs. Currently, I am very involved with the American Indian Student Association, of which I'm a part of, and I'm also the singer for the all-girl Isla Vista band TasteGood.
During the 2018-2019 academic year, you were the external vice president of local affairs, or EVPLA. I was wondering, how did your role as EVPLA influence the way you advocate for survivors' rights, and vice versa? How did your role as EVPLA influence your capacity to make these changes?
As EVPLA, I worked directly with SASA, and there's a lot of spaces where you wouldn't necessarily think in advance that you'd be advocating for survivors, but it comes out in everything that you do. It comes out in spaces, it comes out in meetings with elected officials, just remembering that this is a part of the conversation and it's part of the intersectional identities that people have, and it's part of the hardships that people face, even when it's not always visible and it's not always talked about. So I definitely took opportunities in meetings to make sure that when we were having conversations about the community and about community needs, that was always included in that conversation.
So, how does your identity connect with the work you've done surrounding sexual violence? What is important for people to understand about the relation between sexual violence and Indigenous people?
Being Indigenous, I know the history of my people. I know that Columbus came and met my ancestors. I also know that Columbus and his entourage raped my ancestors. That's a part of my past and it's a part of my present. It's a part of the knowledge that I carry forward and that I will be teaching future generations about. It's something that has heavily impacted our history. Native women face outrageous amounts of sexual violence, and it's usually at the hands of a non-Native perpetrator. 1 in 3 Native women are raped in their lifetime, and that number is 1 in 5 for women as a whole in the United States. And 85% of Native women experience sexual violence at some point in their lifetime. There's numerous statistics that I could go on about that would maybe get the point across for people to finally understand, to feel some kind of way, but like you can't really describe everything in stats. It's about a part of our current reality, and there's a movement going on called the Missing Murdered Indigenous Women Crisis, and it's trying to raise awareness about the astonishing amount of Native women who go missing, and it's just largely underreported. In 2019, it was around 6,000 women, and most of these cases never get investigated. I am a survivor, so when I go into this work, I'm thinking about my own experiences. I'm thinking about the people who have come before me, my family members who have come before me. And then I'm also thinking about the people who will come after me. I'm thinking, how can I leave a better world that for our women, our girls, our two-spirit folk, our men, that will not be violent? How do we create love and compassion and care so that this is not even a question for people? It's common sense. You respect other people. You don't hurt them. You don't cause violence. How do we create that world? And that is what impacts me to make the decisions I make and to do the work that I'm doing.
You and your band TasteGood participated in an event that raised $2,500 for STESA, or Standing Together to End Sexual Assault, a Santa Barbara organization that provides counseling and advocacy for survivors of sexual violence, and it was formerly known as the Rape Crisis Center. A common impression is that advocacy can only look one way, but you were able to host a fun, interactive musical event that had such a collective and instrumental impact on expanding resources for survivors. What motivated this initiative, and why did you feel that this was something important for TasteGood to participate in?
Yeah, so I first want to say that I did not organize this event. The people who organized it were Hannah Ford Monroe, Seo Ben Kalaki, Ava Ann Halt, and Charles Kern Kampf, plus a million other people who stepped up later in the night to manage door and to get money from people as people filtered in. But it was a really amazing experience to be a part of. My band TasteGood, as I mentioned earlier, was able to perform a set, and it was meaningful for us as one of the only, I think, if not the only, all-woman group that I know of in Isla Vista. If there's another one out there, please let me know. I'd love to get in contact with you. Um, but it was meaningful for us to be a part of that space and, bring to light the issues in a kind of positive way, and we were able to raise a ton of money to donate, which was super, super cool, and I was so grateful to be a part of it. It was packed. It was insanely packed. It was probably the most packed show I've ever done, which just goes to show how many people in the community really, really care about this issue and really, really want to fix something and want to be a part of that change, which is an amazing sign moving forward, and it tells us a lot about the community that we live in, which is really, really awesome.
How do you think people can become an ally or maybe be a better ally to survivors of sexual violence in general and specifically Indigenous survivors?
This is a big question because being an ally is an ongoing conversation, and there's always new things to learn. There's always new ways to help. So first and foremost, be willing to adapt. Be willing to learn more, and change the ways that you're being an ally if the community doesn't feel that that's what's needed. Specifically for Indigenous people, I would really, really urge people to actually learn more about the missing and murdered Indigenous women crisis and read into how Native women are disproportionately affected by sexual assault. Because the first step to being an ally is learning. The first step is educating yourself and not always assuming the responsibility of the community to teach you, because that's a burden on the community, that's weight on the community. But also reaching out if they're putting on events, seeing how you can help, and making sure that your allyship is giving, that it's loving, that it's compassionate. You're giving energy to the community, and it's not self-serving. It's out of this love and a genuine desire to help better the world and help better the community and the people around you. Another big thing I'd probably say is to make sure that when you're going about issues like this, especially ones that are so painful, to watch the way in which you're going about it, to watch your language, making sure that you're not saying something that could be triggering, making sure that you're not asking someone to speak directly on their experiences. The other thing I'd say about being an ally for Indigenous people on this issue or on any other issues, to speak out, to use your voice, to not let it only be us who's talking about it. Help amplify our voices, circulate articles written by Native people on this issue, circulate videos, circulate funds for the families of missing and murdered Indigenous women. There's lots of things to share if you're looking for it, and there's lots of ways you can help if you want to, and make sure to uplift those voices first. But then also, don't be silent when you see oppression. You should say something if you see something wrong. You should say something if people are getting ignored. You should say something if there's spaces and we're having conversations about sexual assault and Indigenous women are left out of the conversation. Be an ally when we're not present, and help amplify our voices when we are and when it's comfortable for that person. That's the quick way of how to be an ally, but this is a really long conversation that could just get into so many scenarios and so many different nuances. But learn, educate yourself.
It was so great to have you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this space with me and your views on these issues.